Welcome to the Long Road. I'm your host, Chris Roberts, and it appears that Mother Nature has pulled another Halloween trick on us again this year, 2 years in a row. Last year, she surprised us with about 18 inches of snow, and this year, she has Sandy coming to visit us. And the first casualty of Sandy is the one that a lot of the kids are always worried about. Halloween. Halloween has been rescheduled for Keene. Halloween will now be November 3rd from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And again, that's right now, and that's hopefully that Sandy will spare us and not cause us too much damage. The last thing we want to do is have the same amount of damage that we had the ice storm, which could, I think it was 2008, 2009, could cause a lot of damage and widespread power outages. So right now, tentatively scheduled 5:30 to 7:30 on November 3rd. And if you want the little goblins to come up to your house for some trick and treat, leave the light on. They've been told if the light is off, don't bother. And so there's your choice. If you don't want to see them, don't put the light on. Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy, a couple of days ago, we were talking about how it was supposed to get smaller and weaken. But a couple hours ago, before I get ready to come on the show, I was looking at it and it's saying Hurricane Sandy has gotten a little bit stronger with winds about 85, 90 miles an hour with greater gusts. So some people thought that Hurricane Sandy would be a tropical storm Sandy by this time. But again, she's playing tricks on us, and it's coming up, and it's merging with a cold front that could end up being in a super duper northeasterner, tied with the full moon, high tides. It's not going to be a good day. It may not be a good couple of days. A few hours ago on Monday, today's Monday, it was sunny out. And it was raining, and it was a little wind, kind of really mixture. It was almost like being down in the tropics, where you got the sun here and the wind is blowing the rain in from a distance. But now as I came here at 2 o'clock, the wind is picking up, the flags are blowing straight out. So one of those things in the military, if the flag is blowing straight out, that means the winds are usually 15 to 20 miles an hour gusts. So we could say, yeah, the winds are pretty sustained at about 15 miles an hour. Not too many people outside, but some are. Everything is really closed down. But we always have people out there who are trying to make a buck right to the end. And sometimes it's like, don't mess with Mother Nature. Listen to her. She gives you warnings. Go home, be safe, spend some time with your family, because after all, the kids are not in school today. And so the rec center is closed. I was going to have Andy Bohannon and Megan on to talk about a number of programs, but they're hard at work today setting up the rec center as an emergency shelter. I just hope all their hard work is a total waste of time, because if their hard work is a total waste of time, that means we were spared quite a bit and there wasn't any people that were inconvenienced by Hurricane Sandy. But it's a little strange about Hurricane Sandy. People talk about global warming, climate change, the whole works. Well, global warming, that's really kind of a misnomer. It's easy for people to go and say, hey, the globe is not warming, and really have an opportunity to really quite convincing. And yes, I can argue saying, well, no, the North America was the hottest it's been on record. But then other people say, well, South America has been cooler. So you go back and forth, and when you add up all the numbers, and you can maybe say, wait a minute, quote unquote, people can argue there is no global warming. And but global warming and climate change are two different things. The weather and climate are not the same. The weather today is windy, 55 degrees, and rainy. that's not the climate. The climate is a pattern. And so we could say the climate in northern New England or in New England is changing. And I could easily argue that. And I think if someone wanted to have a reasonable debate, I could say, yes, it's changing. Our growing seasons are changing. You can tell by when the birds come and the birds leave. Right now, I live on Grove Street, and depending on which happens with Hurricane Sandy or Tropical Storm Sandy, I could be in my third 100-year storm since 2005. So in 7 years, I could have had three 100-year storms. Again, depends on how the Tropical Storm Sandy goes. Brattleboro in Vermont up the Connecticut River could have their second 500-year event in 12 months. That's as a result of a change in climate. And if that continues on, that's a changing climate. So that would be climate change. And that has some very serious consequences for places like Keene, the taxpayers of Keene. Every time we have an event, so we had the event from the last flood, okay, so we get money from FEMA to fix it. But they go and they readjust it. So if we said that a 100-year storm is this amount and this amount of rain every 100 years in one event, and that could have been done with a 24-inch culvert, and now what's showing is, no, a 100-year storm is now maybe a 50-year event. Then all of a sudden, they go and say, wait a minute, you can't use a 24-inch culvert anymore. You have to use a 36-inch culvert. So, or you can't use this for storm drains anymore. Now you have to do this. So if the climate changes and the frequencies of these larger storms come in, the events, then when you have construction and when you have road repair and you plan out your wattage, you plan out your runoff, wastewater, all that changes. The cost of all that are going to go up, because if a 100-year storm is now a 50-year storm and a 50-year storm is now a 20-year storm, you have to go in and plan so it doesn't flood out. And that costs a great deal of money. Brattleboro, for example, if Brattleboro has another event like it did last year with Irene, with Sandy, it's going to cost the people of Vermont a heck of a lot of money, because future construction are going to have to adjust to the weather patterns. May have to adjust and create a different floodplain, or we may have to go in and say, you know, those houses that we built right along the Connecticut River, they're really nice, but we may have to go and say, you know what, those houses can't be there anymore. If they're washed away, they can't be there anymore. We have to leave them open so the water can spread out, slow down the movement of the water, make sure the water doesn't cut and scour as much, and the water doesn't cause as much flooding. So you can argue about global warming all you want, but we have to deal climate change or weather patterns. You can, whatever nice word you want to do with it. The climate the weather patterns in New England are changing. The weather patterns in the Midwest are changing. And so you can go like last year and say, if I look in the future, if I'm 20 years from now and I look back in Keene and I can say, wow, 2011, 2012 winter was a pretty normal winter. They had about the same amount of snow that they would normally have. Well, guess what happened? Well, if you take out that 18-inch storm and you take out that 7 or 8-inch storm, winter last year was pretty dry. And so that's one of the problems you do when you add up numbers and you average. Plain and simple, that's what we call is you take out the outliers. You know, it's kind of like the gymnastics in the Olympics. throw out the high score, throw out the low score, and find out what your average is. And so when you go and do that, we were pretty dry last year, and we were kind of pretty dry this year. And so if you go out and you look at your trees, look at the color of the trees, look how quick they were, look at the trees that were stressed, look at the bark on the trees and see how they're splitting. So go to the local apple farmers and find out how short their small their apple crops were this year. So things are changing, so things are going to adjust. Go to the maple sappers. It doesn't sound right. But maple syrup, the production of maple syrup is moving farther and farther north every year. Pretty soon, the best New Hampshire and Vermont maple syrup will be coming from Quebec, because we're just not going to have the weather that's necessary to produce it. And again, we don't need 80, 90 degree weather in March and April and then followed by freezing. So that's the weather, and hope everybody is safe. So when you go and see this show will show up on Halloween, October 31st. So by then, Sandy should be long gone, and hopefully everything is back to normal. And hopefully anybody who wanted to watch the show would be able to watch the show because they had plenty of electricity. The other big effect of Hurricane Sandy was Vice President Joe Biden was supposed to be at Keene State College today. Keene State College is shut down. So Vice President Biden will not be here today. And Michelle Obama was supposed to be in New Hampshire. That has been canceled. The president was supposed to be in Virginia and Ohio. And so it looks like because parts of Ohio, parts of West Virginia, and along the Appalachians they have blizzard warnings, could be expecting 2 to 3 feet of snow. And 2 to 3 feet of snow, high winds cause a lot of problems. It's it's one of those. It's kind of with a monster storm like this. Maybe the only thing that could come beneficial out of this is that we may get 48 to 72 hours of little to no political ads, or very few distortions, misrepresentation of the truth, omissions, all that kind of stuff, because you're not supposed to go out and say outright lies, bold-faced lies, or say whatever you think is going to be necessary to get your votes, and don't worry about after you get one's vote. But plain and simple, when you're watching on Wednesday night, if you're watching this show Wednesday night, in 132 hours from the start of this show, the polls open in New Hampshire, and basically in 150 hours from that night, we should know who the next president of the United States is. And unless I read that both sides, both Obama sides and Romney sides, are hiring all these high-priced lawyers so they can go in and look at all these votes, and maybe looking at a Florida in 2004, an Ohio in 2008. So they plan on being bounced all over the place. And it just seems really weird. We have elections that are coming down to a small group of people with a small group of high-priced, high-powered lawyers to worry about the votes and making sure every single vote counts. Some want all the votes counted. Some people are going to say, no, these votes don't count. They'll go back and forth, and come November 7th, I think we'll be forgotten. And as the people will decide what's going to happen to us for the next 4 years. And so that's going to be kind of strange, Well, it happens all the time, but we just have to go in and pay attention. You remember, your vote still counts. You need to get out there and vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just take your time, research, and go out and vote. In some cases, you just may have to vote with your gut. You're going to go in and say, which is the right thing? What is more important to me? Is is my children's future more important than this? Is my retirement more important than that? Is the war in Afghanistan more important than this? So what you're going to have to do is you're going to sit down there. You need to sit down there and really think about it. And again, you know what? Go with your gut. Don't do what people tell you. Go with your gut. Don't have buyer's remorse. Go with your gut. The other thing that's really important, especially for local politics in New Hampshire, is that a lot of people will go into the voting booth and they'll vote for president, they may vote for Congress, they may vote for governor and Senate, and they may just go down and say, who do I want to be the sheriff? Who do I want to be the register of deeds? And you just go back and forth. Who do I want to be a county commissioner? All those are important, but on the bottom of the ballot in New Hampshire, there are two really, really important constitutional amendments that the people who put out the amendments are hoping and counting on that most people will not take the time to go down and read those amendments. Most of them will just even forget about them. One of the amendments basically will say it will make it unconstitutional for the state of New Hampshire to ever place a tax on income. And the question is, do most people know what income is? Again, a lot of people think income is wages. Well, income is not necessarily wages. For example, someone goes and says, well, I make $50,000 and I'm in the 18% tax bracket, okay? If I earn that is wages. So if I'm Mitt Romney and it goes and says, Mitt Romney paid 14% income tax, okay? Well, if Mitt Romney made $10 million on his investments, that's income, but that's not wages. And so what happens is on $10 million, he pays 14%. So that's like he'll pay $1.4 million in taxes, but that taxes is on income. Where if I made $100,000, not only do I, and that's under wages, I have to pay Social Security tax, I have to pay Medicare tax, which comes out to 7.65. And so if I'm in the 25% tax bracket, and I'm just simplifying and not counting deductions and all this other kind of stuff, say I made $100,000, earned $100,000 after all those deductions, and I had to pay this amount of money and this amount of money, the Social Security tax and the regular income tax, I could pay, for example, a third of my wages in Social Security and federal tax, okay? But if I did not earn a single penny and I had $100,000 that I earned from investments, I pay 14% tax because I don't pay any income, I don't pay sales tax, and I don't pay sales tax. I don't pay Social Security, and I don't pay Medicare taxes. Okay, if the constitutional amendment was to pass, because in New Hampshire we do have an income tax, and the income tax is on dividends. And if I make so much dividends, I have to pay income tax on that dividends. And so part of the secret and the slyness of it, so if I don't work and I earn $100,000 in dividends, which becomes income, if I'm in New Hampshire, I don't have to pay a single penny tax on that, and it would be unconstitutional for the House and the Senate and the governor to sign a bill requiring me to pay income tax on that income. And so there's the trick. And part of it is saying, well, it's going to help New Hampshire. It'll bring in new businesses. No, it won't bring in new businesses. It means if I'm in New York City and I retire from an investment firm and I get $200,000 a year and I put it out and I invest, I can move to New Hampshire and I don't have to pay any sales tax. I don't have to pay any income tax. I don't have to pay death tax. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I will not have to pay for. And what I'll do is I can go buy a nice house in a really small community where the property taxes, some communities only pay $5, $6 per thousand while Keene's open. And so this would be great. I can come into New Hampshire and really take advantage of the New Hampshire advantage and relax. I don't have to. That's why I would want this proposition, this constitutional amendment to pass. So I would be able to live in New Hampshire and not have to pay basically any taxes. Yeah, I'm going to pay gas tax if I drive my car. I'm going to pay taxes if I have a telephone. I'm going to pay, there's a whole bunch of these other small taxes here and there. But I will not have to pay a single penny on my income. I will never have to pay a single penny on my investment. And so, as we all know, the cost of government is going up. Plain and simple, it has to go up. Even if it only went up 1% a year, every year for the next 20 years. Or if we do the rule of 72, if it goes up 1% a year for the next 72 years from now, it would double. The federal spending, state spending would double. So where would that extra money have to come from? If the state can't raise it, the only place that money can come from is from the local taxpayer. And so that's an end around, quote unquote, to shrink government. So the local communities will have to pick it up. And as I've stated before, what they do at the State House is it's kind of like plain and simple a last major event where FEMA pays 75% of all the damages if it's an emergency. The state pays 12.5 and the city pays 12.5. So what the state decided is we're not paying the 12.5. And people will go and say, that's downshifting to the local community. Okay. Yes, you can say it's downshifting to the local community, but if we wanted to go into those legalese like lawyer is, and the lawyers will tell you what is the definition of is, it all depends on what the definition of is. Well, the city of Keene does not have to accept federal emergency money. It does not have to accept money from FEMA to repair that damage. So the state is telling Keene, you know what? We're not forcing you to accept that money from FEMA, okay? That is your decision. Because it's your decision to accept that money from FEMA, that $160,000 that we would have paid in the past, that we're not paying now, that's not downshifting because you do not have to accept the money from FEMA. It was your choice. Because it was your choice, you made a determination to pay that $160,000 on, that was your decision. That's not downshifting. That's what the state is doing. The state is finding ways to say, we're not going to do this. And because we're not going to do it, you don't have to do it. So if you want to do it, the ball is in your court and you take out your checkbook to write a bigger check. What it is, it's these smaller communities, these wealthier communities where we have more and more people from out of state moving into those communities who have made the determination, I don't have kids in the school system. I don't have grandkids in the school system. I don't have people with mental health problems. We don't have crime in our area. We don't. And I have no connection with you, so why should I be a donor town? And so really, with the 234 communities in New Hampshire, it's almost kind of like the Balkanization. It's kind of like making old Yugoslavia. It's kind of like we're making separate communities. They want the protection of the state in certain areas, but they also want the state to ensure that they do not have to share any of their wealth with the rest of the people in the state of New Hampshire. If I'm on Lake Winnipesaukee, I'm on Lake Sunapee, I have a $2 million home and I'm only paying $8 per thousand. Yes, I want the people in Keene and Hinsdale and Winchester to put money into the state budget to pay for police to be on the lake. So when I have my torpedo boat going there, cigar boat going 80, 90 miles an hour, I want to be able to be safe. All this kind of, but yes, I want people from Keene and Swansea and Surrey to put money into the state highway program so you can build good roads so the wealthy people can go up to their second and third home at Lake Sunapee, Lake Winnipesaukee, all those other places. That's what they want. But when it comes time for them to go and say, you know what, we need some money to help fund our schools. Nope, not us. We need money to help fund our higher education. Nope, my kids don't go to UNH. My kids don't go to Keene State or Plymouth University or Granite State. You know what? I have no connection. We do not want to be donor. And that's one of the things that's going to come up if people vote the wrong way on those two constitutional amendments on the ballot next Tuesday. So in a lot of cases, if you're going to look for your future, you're going to look at the quality of life in New Hampshire. It's not who you elect for governor. It's not who you elect for state senator. It's not who you elect for state rep. The biggest thing that's going to have the greatest impact on your future, and the one that has the ability to destroy your future and the culture of New Hampshire, are those two amendments. One, we decide no taxes. You can never put any new taxes on income. And second, the state, we at the House, at the level, will have the ability to go in and tell the courts what to do, when to do, how to do. I've lived in states where judges run for election, okay? And if the scales of justice are supposed to be balanced, when someone is running for election, no, the scales of justice are not balanced. They're weighed to the person that puts in the most money. And so, you know what, just take your time, read them, and ask questions, because those are two critical moments. Yes, if I'm the governor, do I pick people for the Supreme Court or for judges that think like me, are going to vote the way I want to? Yes, I do that. But that's a check and balance. And not everybody I pick gets elected, and I don't get to stay governor forever. and we have an age limit in New Hampshire. But to go in and say, well, we're no longer going to be really independent. We're really going to have to make sure that we're be on the good side of the house, because we have this grievance committee that could ask that we as judges to be impeached because they didn't like our decision. Nope, that's a very dangerous precedent to do, and we don't want that to happen. So got about a minute left, and what I'm going to end up with is going to be about 23 minutes. It's basically, there's about 325 pictures of great carvings of the pumpkin fest. The first few taken in daytime, some have candles. At the end, they're the jack-o'-lanterns, and I was able to track down some scary music, some haunted music, some screams, some here and there, and I hope you enjoy it. It's about 23 minutes of it, and what the heck, it's Halloween, and I think this is a perfect scream for Halloween. So I'll see you out there on the long road, and hope you have fun with my little creation. Thank you, and have a safe Halloween.
I am Dracula.
I will eat you.